Hey everyone, welcome back to Studio Z. Today I'm going to continue on upgrading my CNC router. In particular, I'm going to focus on the Spoilboard and replacing it with a moisture-resistant MDF. And you might be asking yourself, well, what's wrong with the factory Spoilboard? It's fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, don't worry. I'm going to answer those questions for you, and I'm going to show you why you may want to replace it with moisture-resistant MDF. Then I'm going to show you how I made the slats. And lastly, I will show you how I resurface the entire Spoilboard, including how I program it in Vectric. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, everyone. So here I have the factory Spoilboard MDF, and next to it I have the moisture-resistant MDF slat, which I've cut. And this is just a regular bottle of water that I have, and I'm just going to place a droplet on each one, and I will show you how they react to the water. So first I'll start on the regular MDF, and then I will place it on the moisture resistant. And you can see how immediately on the regular MDF it is already beginning to soak in. And it's just been a matter of seconds, whereas on the moisture resistant, it's beading, much like when you put water on a car that you've just waxed. Kind of looks the same thing. So I'm just going to let this soak for, maybe, a minute or so. And then so I'll explain to you why you would want to do this. So moisture resistant MDF comes in, from different companies. I happen to be using a product called Armorite, and it has an ANSI rating of MR50, which is pretty good. And again, keeping in mind that this is an inexpensive approach to getting a moisture-resistant Spoilboard. There are many other options that you can go with, plastic, aluminum, which are extremely expensive. But this particular product, Armorite, in a 4x8 sheet is only about $100 a sheet. So it's really inexpensive. There is another product out there, and it's called Tricoya. It is probably the best moisture-resistant MDF that there is. However, it's $800 for a 4x8 sheet in the United States. And that is ridiculous. That is just, really expensive product. So I don't recommend it, only because, again, of the fact that it's extremely expensive. So now you can already see, we've been here about a minute or so, and the water droplet is completely saturated into the MDF there, the regular MDF, where it's just sitting on the surface of the moisture resistant. And the reason that you would want to do this, as you can see, is if you live in a humid climate, during the summers especially, this product, the moisture resistant MDF, is not going to swell when you have, those humid summers or any time that, things like that occur. It's not going to change dimension. Whereas the regular MDF is going to constantly be changing between humid periods, dry periods. You're going to have constant variations in thickness on your Spoilboard, and that's not good for accuracy. So I know many guys have, will put sealers on top of the MDF, but depending on which type of sealer you put on, and if you cut through it, it's also very difficult to get sealer inside of here. So if this is exposed, that's going to swell and give you a ridge. The edges of it, you have to basically seal the entire thing, which can be a real pain. And if you resurface the board, or if you cut into it, now you have to seal that cut or whatever, otherwise that's going to swell. So it's really not worth it to go that route. You can just get this moisture resistant board, and for $100, it's a real easy cure to not have to worry about having that happen. Look, this hasn't even budged yet, and this, you can feel it's significantly raised. So for me, it's a no-brainer. All right, so now that I've shown you why you would want to change your Spoilboard and go with a moisture-resistant MDF, let me show you how I go ahead and make the slats. All right, so I'm over at the table saw, and here's the sheet of the moisture resistant MDF. And I chose to use the table saw to rip this. You know, it's the most consistent to make nice even strips. These are just under 3 inches wide, and they're 49 inches long. You can use a track saw, you can use a circular saw as well, but I highly recommend doing this with the table saw. Again, you'll get the most consistent width possible. And for this, I have to make 12 of these strips. So here I'm just going to show you a couple of them. Make sure you wear your masks with MDF, guys. It's really nasty stuff. The dust is not good for you. Even though I have dust collection, it does blow out the top there, as you can see. So, all right. So from here, I will show you all the strips as they're made, and we'll move on to drilling the holes. Okay guys, so here are the slats off of the table saw. These are the new ones, the moisture resistant MDF. And as you can see, I've taken the other slats off of the CNC router. Those are the old ones. And I'm gonna use those to as a template to drill the new ones, the new holes. And I will do that on the drill press. It's the easiest way to replicate the holes. So, all right, let me head over to the drill press and I'll show you guys how I drill the holes. All right, so I'm over at the drill press and I have stacked the MDF boards on top of each other. So on top is the old one and underneath is the new. And I'll be using, obviously, the old one as a guide. I have a 1/4 inch drill bit to drill the center hole. And then next, after that hole, I will be following it up with a 1/2 inch Forstner bit to create the recess for the head of the bolt. All right. So I'm going to do this for every hole. There's 12 boards, 4 in each one, so it's going to take a little while. Okay, so I've now finished drilling out the center hole, and I've switched over to the 1/2 inch Forstner bit, and I haven't changed any of the settings on the rails. I simply adjusted the depth so that the Forstner bit is going into the MDF slat about 3/8 of an inch deep. And I'll just center it over the existing hole, and that's should be good. All right, so I'm ready to install the new MDF slats, and I just want to go over that I had a lot of debris left in the channels here from prior machining, so I wanted to mention to make sure that before you do that, make sure these are really clean and there's no burrs or anything on any of the screws, the threads, because any of that will interfere with the new slats when you try to put them in. So it's very important to make sure it's very clean. Okay everyone, so here it is all put back together. And what is next, I'm going to go into Vectric and I will show you how I write program to surface the entire Spoilboard. And I have certain, let's say, special concerns because I raised the table up. I have to be careful about hitting the walls with the side of the spindle. So I have to be extra careful on my measurements. And also because I raised the machine up, I use a collet extender to reach all the way down. And that gives me the extra length that I need to avoid hitting the side of the spindle on there. And also the Shapeoko 5 Pro has certain limitations on its actual range of movement or motion. So if when you're zeroing this in, the machine will only get to about 1/4 of an inch of the edge of the MDF Spoilboard. So you cannot use bit 0 to locate it. You'll have to manually locate the X, Y, and Z 0. So again, I'll go over all of this and I'll see you over at the computer and we'll go into Vectric. Okay, so I'm here in Vectric and I have set up my job. It's a single-sided job and the dimension for the inside here, the inside rectangle, okay, that represents where on the machine, the limits, let's say, of the machine. And that size is 47 inches wide by 48.5 inches height at a thickness of our boards, which is 3/4 of an inch. My 0 position is going to be the material surface. Our XY datum position is going to be the front left corner. And yeah, that's it. So those are all good. And so now this inner rectangle, like I said, represents the table, the limits on the table of what the machine can actually touch. And this outer rectangle is what is going to actually be used for our toolpath. Okay, so this outer rectangle is 47 3/4 inches wide by 49.5 inches in height. And that is what we are going to use for the toolpath. So I'm going to select it and then head over here. And for our material setup, again, the thickness is 3/4 of an inch. XY datum, as you know, is the front left corner. We're going to be using the material surface. One thing to note about the home start position, for my machine, because I have raised the machine up and I've used the 3-inch aluminum spacers, normally in Vectric, this machine would have this operation start right here from this corner. So it would enter right here from the outside and come across diagonally like this to the center. And I can't have that happen because it'll collide with the aluminum riser that I have put in there. So here I have offset the start position on the x-axis by 23 inches. So what's going to happen now is the program's going to make the tool enter from here in the middle. So it'll come in this way and it'll avoid any type of collision with the side rails there. So just something I wanted to mention. All right, so that's for the material setup. And all right, so now my tool path. So here's what I've done. My start depth is at 0 inches. We're going to go to a cut depth of 12 thousandths. And I'm using a 2-inch end mill. It's a surfacing end mill. And, you know, depending on what you might have, I chose the 2-inch end mill because I need to make sure that the end mill that I select is larger than the collet nut. Very important, because if it's not, then the collet nut is going to rub when it gets to the outer edge on my aluminum riser tubing that I put on there. So that's very critical to have that. And let's see. So yeah, I'm going to be cutting it in the offset pattern so that it'll start in the center here and work its way toward the outside. And again, highlighted just the outside rectangle, so it will not cut any further than that. If it did any more than that, then it will hit the aluminum edges of my my riser there that I have. So very important for me. So let's see. Everything else here looks good. On my 2-inch end mill, in case you wanted to see the settings, this one happens to be a 6 flute end mill, and I'm going to use a step over of 0.8 inches, which is obviously 40%. I'm turning at 14,000 RPM, 130 inches a minute, and a plunge rate of 30 inches a minute. All right, so that's all good. Again, I've already done this, so at this point I would just save it to my my file to my documents, and then I can have it ready to bring to the machine. All right, so now that I've got that done, I will head back over to the machine and we will get it started to machine the spoil board. All right, so here I am back at the machine. I have located the XY start point and put in the 2-inch surfacing end mill. Here we are measuring the tool off, and as you'll see now, as I pointed out in Vectric, its entry point will be right here, and it's spooling up. Just about ready to start cutting. And I didn't, well, I mean, I expected there to be a lot of dust, but it really got to be a lot of dust. A little more than I had wanted, let's say. And unfortunately, again, I couldn't use the dust boot because it would collide with the side rails. So I had to go around chasing it myself with the vacuum, and then I bailed out of this recording, I'm going to be honest with you, because the dust was just becoming way too much. So I tried chasing it with the vacuum, but then later with the dust extraction 4-inch hose is what I ended up using. And, you know, everything went well. It wasn't a problem. But boy, oh boy, it was a lot of dust. So I'll show you that, guys, now, the actual finished product. All right, well, I bailed out of that recording. It got really dusty in here, and I was kind of panicking about the camera and stuff because, as you saw, the dust was just flying everywhere. But you got the picture as how it went. Everything went well, and I got the whole surface machined with no issues, and it all went well. I put everything back together, including the bit setter, and yeah, so everything's good. Oh, by the way, also, I just to make sure, I went ahead and did the water droplet test again on the newly machined surface, and there's no change. It's still the same thing. It beat it up just like it did as you saw earlier in the video. So just because you machine the surface doesn't change anything. It still reacted the same way. It beat it up, never penetrated it or anything like that. So I hope you guys found this beneficial. I know that you know, it certainly is an inexpensive way to upgrade the machine and not have to worry about moisture anymore. I had looked at other alternatives, you know, going either plastic or aluminum, and it was just way too expensive, and then came across this, and I was really happy when I found it. So if you guys enjoyed it, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. It really helps out. And with that, I will see you guys on the next one.